Hi there, everybody. Susan Bachelder here, and I am hanging out with Paul Barlow today. Hi, Paul. How are you doing?
Good. How are you doing?
Really good. Really good. I'm really extra excited today for this discussion, and I actually worded it, and I'm actually going to read it to introduce it, if that's okay with you, Paul.
No problem. Go for it.
But talking about it will be fine. None of it is scripted because it's something that we're both familiar with, but then I'll get all tangled with my words in the beginning. So we're going to talk about how to disrupt. You need to take initiative and then intercept, and then that's where the impact happens. And you'll understand what we're talking about when we get into it. So when you apply this conversation and like what we're going to try to paint a picture with in this conversation today, when you apply that to cause, culture, and community, then you add creation, like your own content, yourself, then the possibilities are limitless. So what the aim is, or the intention is, to break down the barriers between offline and online and attract, well, your target audience is a huge intention, but a classier audience. So that's what we're here to talk about today. But Paul, can you start off by just telling everybody a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So I've been involved my entire career in marketing, been 17 years, primarily in the network marketing industry. I've also spent many of those years in the internet marketing space, and always accompanying both, but also so I've built organizations and teams as a network marketer, but also then helped companies get started, and so gotten into traditional marketing as far as how to get brands put together, get companies out there, spread a message, and this a lot of things we're just talking about. Creating content, culture, these types of concepts, and so it's been about 17 years now. Currently working with a company on the inside, helping it grow. I do a lot of business all over the world. I have a pretty global focus, speak some languages, and do that. And so that's kind of my focus. And they say basically modern marketing around the world with a focus on social, interactive people, person to person versus maybe the mass techniques, I guess is what I would say. That kind of what we're talking about there. The what would you call it? The intricacies of human to human direct contact, and moving a marketing message through that medium.
And that's awesome, and that's why I am so honored to have this friendship and professional, really honor to have this conversation with you. In fact, speaking of social media, I got one of those messages today that exactly 2 years ago we connected on Facebook for the first time.
I got the same message.
How ironic is that?
Yeah.
And then cool. The interesting thing is, then it was a few months later, I guess September of that year, when we actually met in person at an event.
Yeah.
And what I was speaking to that day was video marketing on purpose. And so that's kind of what started our conversation that day, which is ironic that we're carrying on that conversation on a different level today. So I think that's really cool.
Definitely. That's great.
So to kind of pull it together for everybody a little bit, my experience is actually a 15-year critical care nursing. Did I say all that? 15-year critical care nursing career until 2005. And then a car accident kind of changed all that, and I wasn't working. So I just really started in this online space in 2011, mostly like more actively in 2012. So only 4 years. So the offline marketing, I didn't know anything about that at all. It's all been a learning curve for me. But here's what I found, which made me passionate about this exact topic. Getting into the digital marketing, I found there was kind of like a huge missing piece. And being in my career as I was for 15 years, I'm all about the human connection and helping people. And how can you build a relationship without having eye contact and voice intonation? How do you know what you're talking about? And so there was all these messages with mixed conjectures and intonation, like you didn't know what somebody was really meaning. So for that first year, I was like, what are these people talking about? What are they not talking about? What do they mean? Something's missing.
I understand.
And then I figured out, well, first of all, it's education, like teaching people, like stop, like sometimes you have to slow down and think about how you're communicating. And I think it's because of the digital kind of explosion came so fast that it was the digital possibilities and technology was ahead of people's thinkings, because it has evolved a lot. But there is something to be said about connecting like we are right now, having this conversation as if we are sitting either at a meeting table or in a coffee shop or something and having a conversation. There's that missing piece of humanness, whether it's the facial expression or the stuttering or or the excitement in somebody's voice when they're really when they mean something, right? It's missing that the humanization, essentially. So that's why we're talking about this today. I was just going by, my completely different career experience. Like something has to change, but how do we change this? So tying it into marketing, and I just love picking your brain, Paul, about so does this fit? Does this make sense? Is this marketing sense? And and I love how it all comes together.
Awesome. Let's go for it.
So the first question I would like to ask you is, when you look back, so over your experience, and when you look back of essentially where things have come, because you are aware of the flow of things because of your career, and you also know statistically where things have come, do you use that to predict then where it's going to go? Because if we're going to be effective, we have to have some sort of concept of what is going to be applicable and what will work to communicate and to make direct sales tomorrow, and not just we're going to stay behind if we're only doing what's working today.
So I'm going to kind of so for me, going kind of to the statistics and everything, it's interesting to me that specifically in my space, the direct selling space, that I grew up with the internet. The internet came out commercially when I was a freshman in high school, and I was one of those early adopters. I was kind of a techie, kind of geeky guy, and I enjoyed it right away. And so I've been able to watch literally the entire advent of. I've grown up with all the differences that the internet has made, and at the same time, what I didn't know is that at least at that time, and then I came to know, is that direct selling it was also beginning to explode and come into its own. And I can use some statistics on that. It took essentially, if you want to go back to really, Avon's parent company, the California Perfume Company, I think is what it was called, back in the late 1800s up till 1990. It took that long for the modern direct selling industry to come to about $60 billion a year in sales. Fast forward now from 1990 to right now, and the estimates are at about 250 billion now, and that's because there's DSA publishes their statistics, but the DSA only publishes numbers for their members, and so you have to kind of extrapolate beyond that. Their numbers are about 180 billion, so we're adding that type of number. That's some statisticians have put out there. So, and I don't think that's an accident, because talking about the disruption and say that was disruption, because you talk about where are we going, the statistics, these types of things. I say, look, things are moving so fast and so quickly, and you don't know what's going to be the next thing. You don't know what's going to be the next Facebook, next Pokemon Go. You have no idea. What you do know is human nature doesn't change. What you do know is that what interests people doesn't change at all. It just really doesn't. That's I guess maybe the most consistent thing that I found through my career, is no matter with all the swirling changes and everything that's happened, it's been a lot. I mean, things are fundamentally different today than they were when I began 17 years ago doing what I do. And but people are the exact same. I mean, people are no different. They never will be. I mean, of course, I always say a human being is unpredictable and is different, everything, but people are pretty much the same. And so I guess that's the biggest thing I say. So on a certain level, yeah, statistics do help us with the trends and where kind of things are going, but it's almost like I say, that's almost a hindsight measure. And I guess if you're really looking forward and to what you can do in the future, you have to start from that bedrock of okay, who are people? What do they want? What are they trying to accomplish? And then maybe you can look at some data to kind of help go from there.
That's awesome. So in other words, essentially it still comes back to the people.
Absolutely. It always, and that's what it is. It's just people serving people. And now because of the internet, because what the internet allowed us to do was to just connect everybody. Now the whole entire world is connected. And I say, once again, I'll use another little statistics in the middle of that. If you direct selling from a North American perspective was the dominant player until 2004. What launched in 2004? What major? Facebook. Facebook is what launched in 2004. You can put a literal pin right there and see the absolute proliferation and explosion from 2004 to now of direct selling companies, of growth in membership and sales overseas, outside of North America. And it's to me, it's once again not an accident that happened, and it's just exciting. It's so exciting to be able to put literally a pin right in that. So humans, what that tells me is humans are the same everywhere else. They just needed the opportunity. They needed the ability to reach out, and especially in developing nations, people like that. Without the internet, they just wouldn't have the access to the information. They didn't have the access to the information, the resources, the ability to see what they could do until the advent of the internet, social media, some of these tools for connecting humans, right? So that's why I say always just come back. You got to come back to, okay, who are people? What do they want? Yes, they're pretty much the same everywhere. Of course, culturally, we're all different in different countries. We have differences, but our fundamental human needs, the need to be social, the need to interact, the need to be part of things, and to grow and produce. These are all just natural human things, and that's I guess that for in my space, people are always afraid, and even in internet marketing too, people are afraid to really talk to people, afraid of rejection. And I said, look, humans want to do things. They want to accept invitations. They want to be part of things. Now, and that's why we make all these defenses and all these crazy smoke screens and poker faces and all the other stuff, because we know we want to do things and we don't want to get quote unquote tricked or spend more money because we've spent money before and all these different things. Well, the whole reason that exists because we humans want to be connected. We want to do things together, and we just need a good reason to. And that's kind of the foundation of any of these, of anything.
Yeah, exactly. And that was one of my pivot points when I realized that, because when I first came onto this industry, I had this little voice in my head, just like so many people do. Well, I don't know how to sell, but I don't know anything about this and all that. And then when I started really contemplating, and also when I saw, as I explained earlier, that there was this missing communication, then I just stopped and I thought, well, just go back to basics. How, because one of my strengths as a nurse was really getting to know that really sick patient. When you're a critical care nurse, they're really sick, often just a hairline away from dying. So my thing that I would do with them is find out from their family or whoever around them, what are they passionate about? What did they do? What happened right before the incident when they got this sick? And then I would tap into that. I would talk to them about it, essentially get them to want to get better. And so it would start from within, right? And so, yeah, I can reach a person that's even comatose. So I thought, okay, I can reach these people through here. So hence started this crazy mission of humanizing this. Just be real. You don't have to be a master seller or closer. If you're excited about your product, don't be afraid to talk to people, reach out, build a relationship. And it's just a human on the other side of that message.
Absolutely.
Or I shouldn't say just, it is a human.
It is, yeah. And well, I think that's the key. And I kind of want to draw a correlation too between the connection and people being more free to be themselves and be genuine, because now we all have distribution. I guess that's what it really is. Every human now has distribution worldwide, at least of influence if they want to go do it. We could, like what we're doing right now. I mean, we're on our computers, didn't cost that much money. We're talking, you're in one country, I'm in another. It's like we're standing right next to each other. We can get this out around the world, and somebody on the other side of the planet could watch this tonight while we're sleeping. And you know what I mean, all that kind of thing. So it allowed people to get now, and that's really the key, is it allows now people to go out there, be themselves, just be who they are. I said, the guy that I'm sure you've seen a lot of his stuff too, and the person I most respect with that from a genuine perspective as a marketer is Gary Vaynerchuk. He's always Gary. Now, whether or not you like him or not or whatever, and I do like him, but some people, he could rub people wrong, right? But he he is always who he is. And I respect that because he more than anybody that I see understands that and understands this whole thing of distribution. He's just distributing himself, and that's really what we're all, in the end, that's all sales and marketing has ever been. It is distribution, distributing yourself, distributing a message that you agree with. But more than ever now, we can get down to that raw essence of a single individual promoting that and say, this is who I am. Do you want to be a part of that? If that makes sense. And it's fantastic.
Yeah, it absolutely makes sense. I forget what this fellow's first name is. I think John Burke. He recorded a video just within the last week sometime, and he was speaking to Gary Vaynerchuk style and also Grant Cardone. And he was saying, like, don't forget to be yourself. Like, it's great. Be inspired by these people that are out there and really branding themselves. Be inspired, learn from them, but don't try to be them. Still be you. So that's really important as well. And like, go ahead, take the initiative, intercept, however, make an impact, but make sure that it's your impact with your message.
So let me kind of go into that. That's something I've been thinking about a lot lately. It's kind of like, and I know this kind of word can rub people wrong, but it's the right word. It's faith. And I say, look, people are rewarded for faith in this day and age. You know what I'm saying? Before, you couldn't necessarily always be rewarded because, once again, distribution was limited, whether it was newspaper for news or television for video, or newspaper for print and media. The distribution channels were tiny. Now that distribution is 100% all over the place. Everybody's got access through video cameras and blogs and everything else, and social media for pictures and everything, and the video. It comes down to, are you willing to step out? Are you willing to then show that leap of faith? And then back it up too, because once you put yourself out there, you're going to run into the friction. You're going to run into the traction. That's the nature of this. It's almost like I say, it's like the universe tests you to see if you're really serious, right? And when you're marketing or when you're promoting something, and you have to be, number one, ready for it, and number two, confident enough to go right through it. And they say confidence is that real key because obviously all those guys we're talking, they're very, very confident people, but it's. People sometimes, I think, look at them or look at other, people. So how are these people making so much money? They're not really doing anything or this, that, but they say, but they really are. They've been willing to put themselves out and create that influence and accept the responsibility, I guess is maybe the best way to say it, of hundreds to thousands to millions of people looking to them, criticizing them, cheering them on, all that kind of, I don't know even how to really frame that, but just say that in and of itself is already something that's a huge, it's a leap of faith into the darkness and continuing. And of course, just like anything else, it's like a bike. You'll get good at it and you'll get good at it, but you still do it no matter how long, whether Grant or Gary, these guys have been doing it for 10, 20 years, they still have to get up every day and say, I'm going to go interact with these millions of people and be open to that, be vulnerable to these millions of people by putting myself out there. I don't know if that is really relevant to our conversation, but it's just been getting me lately, and it's impressive to me. And I say that's really what holds people, because most people just aren't willing to do that, so they're never going to get that influence.
I think that is very relevant, actually. And some people think that Grant Cardone and Gary Vaynerchuk and the likes just woke up like that. They didn't just wake up like that.
No, absolutely not.
They worked for however long through the trenches or whatever. They went through the learning and the testing and trialing and I'm sure many mistakes to get to where they are. So they deserve what they have, because you're right. They were brave enough and they had enough faith to just go ahead and do it.
Yeah.
Like I didn't even wake up like I was today. Like 4 years ago, I was afraid to even turn the camera. I was afraid to even put my picture on social media, but you just do it a little by little and just be okay with it. You are just who you are.
Well, it's having that message that runs through it, because you say, I'd say probably your children and like say that generation that's coming up, they grew up with a camera in their face and the selfies and all that. But they don't necessarily have a message that they're promoting, right? So it's just this scattered. There's no organization of intent, and that's where you look at once again these successful marketers, and say it's not just the fact that they put themselves out there, but it's the will to hold together, is to focus down, get an intent, and stick with it, and really go. You know what I mean? And once again, especially when the detraction comes, people are pulling on it, trying to pull you apart, and this and that. That's where the value is. So I hope, especially as I said, that upcoming generation, because they're so easy to put themselves out. I mean, they grew up once again in the distributed world of yourself, and so they're for them it's so easy to go out and put videos and this and that and everything else into the world. But it's until they can focus that intent down, there's not going to be any real. It's like the magnifying glass. So you can get that magnifying glass going, you're not going to be able to create the fire type thing.
Well, that is really cool, because as I'm listening to you with that last point, that brings us full circle right back to the beginning. Mm-hmm. So if you really do want to disrupt and make an impact, you have to have an organized message. You have to be clear with who you are, who you're presenting, and what your message is. You have to be really clear.
Absolutely. That's yeah. Well, and that's how disruption happens. I mean, you look at a guy like Steve Jobs, for example, back when, he got booted from Apple. That people always forget about that part and say, he was literally kicked out of his company that he founded almost 20 years later. Think about that. You're 20 years almost, and and they said, no, take a hike. Your weaknesses are not worth your strengths, essentially what they told him, right? Because most people have read his biography. If not, they should, or whatever. He had a lot of weaknesses, a lot of strengths, right? Then he comes back and has the audacity to number one, revolutionize the music industry, first of all, with iTunes. That was a serious, and people look at, oh, well, why? Of course you should. No, there was no of course you should. Same thing with the iPod and then the iPhone and all, and just the idea of simplicity and innovation and different, all that stuff. I mean, think about, I think if I would have been somewhere working on my dream for 20 years and they booted me to the curb, would I have had the ability to come back and then be and literally change the world the way he did? I mean, once again, it's like almost that universal naturally had to go through that part of getting kicked out or whatever, so that he could come and have that literal worldwide hundreds of billions of dollar impact where every single one of us now, hold on, this isn't one of his, but it's like this came from them, right? Everyone now, there's more of those than there are people on the planet, because one guy, now he wasn't the only one working on it, but they brought it out, right? That to me is true what disruption is. So it's like I say, the disruption, once again, in this day and age, talking about online, offline, I always come back to this underlying human element of this almost this hero's journey, where you have to start, you're going to go through the tough time. You cannot. I've never seen it. I don't know. Have you ever heard the story of like some guy, oh, well, you know what? I decided one day I was doing something and I said that I was going to go do this other thing. And then like I started making millions of dollars, and then like everybody loved it. And it was just awesome. And now I'm on a yacht, like in the middle of if it exists, I've never heard it. Maybe it does, but I don't. Every story I've ever heard, and people tend to over dramatize, I think, too, when they look back in the past. But at the same time, that story, that Steve Jobs style story, is the foundation of any disruption. It is the foundation of any ability to make true and lasting change. Because I mean, that's true and lasting change, and disruption is obviously it's painful, right? And that's the thing. Even if it's a good painful, it's still painful. So you have to have, you have to have reasons, and I think that's where a lot of that comes from.
I agree. And when he came back, according to his biography, it wasn't easy either. Every change that he was bringing about, like he was fought on it. And he
thought he was crazy.
Yeah.
Right? What's wrong with you? We're doing this, and you want to go do this?
Yeah.
Here he goes again. You know what I mean?
So, and the disruption doesn't have to be that massive. It's just that is a really good example. It can be smaller, but does need to be with intention, and it needs to be focused.
And so I'll go into just then the disruption here and talking a little bit of online, offline. So in my space, first, I say disruption comes slowly to my industry. And the reason being is because we're based on relationship marketing. And I say we don't have to compete as other traditional companies do, because a traditional company has to be good to succeed. Our companies don't, because anybody can talk to a friend and have them do something. And as I say, and so that's the best thing and the worst thing about this network marketing, direct selling industry. And so it's been slow to change, but finally now over the last 5-10 years now, there's been a lot of change, and most of that change has come from looking across the aisle at the different styles of things going on. So for example, right now, if you know my space, great. If not, then go look all these up. But we have a multi-level marketing approach on one hand, and we have a party plan approach on the other. Well, more than ever, both of those are completely intersecting now because they finally look and say, oh, here's all the good things you guys are doing. Maybe we can bring some of that over here. Same on the other side. Here's some of the good things we're doing. Maybe we can bring that over here. One of the things I live telling all my clients and the people I work with is, guys, we have to be looking at traditional retail. Traditional retail has been successful for a reason. We need to be looking at the Amazons, the Walmarts, the Gaps, the JCPenney's, and all that. And I say, even though it sounds crazy, because what we do is the exact opposite of what those people do. You know, we're all hands-on; they're completely hands-off, at least from a marketing perspective. But that's where the future is going. That's where the disruption in my space is going to come from. It's from that. It's from looking across that aisle into a place that you never would have thought would have maybe had value to you, or you see as your opponent, even, if you will, and going there. You got to go, and that's the key. And so I would say that when coming to the online, offline, both sides. So if you're a traditional belly-to-belly direct seller marketer, you need to go talk to internet marketers. You need to go to the conferences. You need to go listen to them and go find out how they think. And internet marketers, you need to get out of your little caves and get out from behind the computer and go talk to real people out there in conferences. And once again, sit across the tables and hear from especially the old guys. I said the older guys that have been doing this for 20, 30, 40 years that maybe still kind of scratch their head on the internet thing. Those are the guys you need to be talking to because they know how to deal with people. They know those types of things. So I see some of it happening. I think more of it needs to happen, but that to me is where that we're going to finally come to some kind of melding of true online and offline harmony when it comes to marketing.
I completely agree, which is why we're talking right here today. I have one specific client that just popped into my mind as you're describing that right now. And he was extremely successful. He's one of the old guys, and just brilliant. And he could close a living room packed full of 100 people, a meeting room of 300 people. And he could present, and he's just a powerful, powerful talker. He comes online and he's afraid. I've been working with him for about 9 months now. He gets in front of the computer and he's getting ready to record a video and he forgets what he's going to say. So I'm just working with him to say, you just talked my ear off for 15 minutes explaining your point. Just do that. Like you are so brilliant. Like, don't shut that off when the camera light turns on. Like, remember who you are. Just communicate that. He's like, okay. And then if we don't talk for a week, he's back in that cage again. So definitely go or going and having these conversations with the people that you think are on the opposite side of the fence. You can learn a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it is the key to disruption. In fact, if I really go back and start looking at I've read a lot of different books. If you want to read Jim Collins, all of his material is phenomenal. And a lot of it, he talks about a lot of stuff. Also, Start With Why by, who is it? Is that Simon Sinek? I think that's Simon Sinek. Couple great books. Yeah, that's what I'm just trying to remember off the top of my head.
That's an excellent book. Yeah.
Great book. But these guys, a lot of times they go into this, and a lot of these people have acquired a lot of their best ideas and things from, once again, getting outside the box, looking across the aisle, or looking in completely unrelated industries. There was a I can't remember the story. I've been trying to remember it. There's a sports icon, an iconic coach. That's what he did. He spent some time, took his basketball players to go learn ballet.
Was it John Wooden? Coach John Wooden?
It might be, and I don't know the story correct, so I'm not going to tell. So I'm just going to give a general example, right? Or took the football players, the American football players, and had them go learn ballet so they can work on their footwork and all that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, hey, bud. How are you? You home? Okay, I'm doing a little video here. So, okay. So that's, I say there's something with that in the sports world, and I can't remember the exact thing, but that's exactly what we have to do, and it needs to happen. There needs to be a melding of the online and offline worlds, because right now I kind of go into that more sophisticated client that you're talking about. So specifically in both approaches, in the marketing industry, in a direct approach and in an internet approach, there's just so much bottom feeding, I guess is the best way to say it. And I don't know how to say it any nicer than that, where it's all about, it's catering to the lowest common denominator, saying whatever you got to say, doing whatever you got to do to squeeze a few pennies out of that desperate individual that doesn't really know any better. And that's not effective. You know what I mean? And most people, they do that because it is quote unquote low-hanging fruit. And it's like, look, if we can innovate and if we can get to a place where there's always going to be some effort to get to better results, period, in the story. And that's just something people have to learn. And most people do in their careers is if you want better results, you got to put more time and effort. So it's never going to be just sit back, relax, put your hand behind it, whatever. That just doesn't exist. But we can make it so it's more fun, where it's more enjoyable, I guess, to go after, I say, more of a sophisticated audience that takes a little while to take their credit card out of their pocket, that has more questions or is a little bit more discerning, and create, but say putting our worlds together will do that, because there's just advantages in both of them that you can't get in the other one that will help facilitate a lot of that, in my opinion.
I agree. Well, I'm going to close out because I think we've really discussed this. We've covered all the points that I was hoping we would. And I haven't been watching the time, but it's probably as long as most people can pay attention. and your family's home. So in respect of that. So I want to thank you, Paul, again, for having this conversation with me. I think we offered the audience a great deal of value. So thank you very much. I appreciate you.
I thank you. I love our conversations and hope you invite me on again sometime.
I love the learning and the challenging, and it's awesome. Thank you. And to all of you watching, thank you for watching all the way to the end. Reach out to either one of us on the article that I write. I'll have the contact information if you want to reach out to us, and have an awesome day. We'll see you in the next video.
See you guys later.